In 1943, a hidden flaw was killing American pilots in the Pacific. The military command called it pilot error, but a ground crew sergeant named James McKenna knew the truth, and he was about to commit a court-martial offense to prove it. His tool was a 6-inch piece of piano wire. His crime was an unauthorized modification. His mission was to save the life of a pilot on a mission he was not expected to survive. This is the true story of a secret that changed the air war. August 17, 1943, Technical Sergeant James McKenna crouched under the wing of a P-38 Lightning, watching his pilot, Lieutenant Robert Hayes. Hayes was 23, a farm kid from Iowa, with 6 combat missions and 0 kills. He was flying straight into 18 Japanese Zero fighters. McKenna had been maintaining P-38s for 8 months in the jungle. He knew the aircraft was a masterpiece of engineering, fast, powerful, deadly above 20,000 feet. But he also knew it had one fatal flaw, a flaw that was killing American pilots every single day. The P-38 could not turn with a Zero. The Mitsubishi Zero was a Predator built for agility. Lighter, with a phenomenal lift-to-drag ratio, it could execute a full horizontal turn in half the time it took a P-38. In the lethal geometry of a dogfight, that difference meant death. American doctrine was clear, drilled into every pilot. Never turn with a Zero. Use your speed, use your altitude. Dive in, shoot, climb out. Hit and run. It was the only way to survive. But Lieutenant Hayes had tried to follow that doctrine. He'd tried 5 times. It hadn't worked. The Zeros were too smart. They would bait the Americans, and the moment a P-38 pilot committed, the Zero would snap into a turn the Lightning couldn't follow. It would cut inside the turning radius, get on its tail, and that was it. A short burst of 20mm cannon fire, and another American aircraft would be falling from the sky. The Fifth Air Force had lost 37 P-38s in the past 6 weeks. Most were shot down after being caught in turning engagements they were told to avoid but couldn't escape. James McKenna had watched too many pilots die. Good men. Kids, really. They'd climb into their cockpits, and they'd come back in wooden boxes, or they wouldn't come back at all. The official reports, typed up by rear echelon officers, consistently listed the cause as pilot error. The instructor said these boys weren't following doctrine, but McKenna knew better. The problem wasn't the pilots, it was the planes. He'd lost 17 pilots he'd personally serviced planes for. The first was Lieutenant David Chen. Chen had been in theater for 3 weeks. He and McKenna had talked about California. Chen came back from a mission with 3 bullet holes in a perfect group on his left boom. He told McKenna a Zero had gotten inside his turn. He said he'd tried to roll out and dive, just like the manual said, but the airplane felt slow, like it was fighting him. There was a delay. The Japanese pilot had anticipated exactly where Chen's P-38 would be. Chen was lucky that time. His wingmen saved him. But his aircraft went for repairs. McKenna never saw him again. 3 weeks later, he heard Chen had been killed over Rabaul. Same story. Caught in a turning fight, couldn't roll out fast enough. McKenna knew the problem. He knew what had to be done. The aileron control cables, the wires that make the plane roll, ran a marathon. From the cockpit, back through the twin booms, then forward to the wings. It was a complex system, and it had slack. Not much. Maybe 3/8 of an inch. A measurement so small that it was deemed within factory tolerances. But in a dogfight, during a hard, desperate turn, that tiny bit of slack created a deadly delay. A fraction of a second between the pilot jerking the stick and the aircraft responding. That fraction of a second was the difference between life and death. When McKenna reported this to the engineering officer, he was shut down. The cable tension was within specifications. Changing it would void the aircraft warranty. No field mechanic had authorization. That required engineering approval from Lockheed, 7,000 miles away in California. So, the dying continued. On the evening of August 16th, a desperate Lieutenant Hayes found McKenna in the hangar. The air was thick with the smell of engine oil and despair. Hayes had just watched his wingman, Lieutenant Parker, get shot down, heard him scream over the radio that his airplane wasn't turning fast enough. Hayes asked McKenna point-blank if there was anything he could do, anything at all, to make the airplane roll faster. He said he didn't care if it was against regulations. He just wanted a chance, a fighting chance. McKenna looked at Hayes and saw the ghost of David Chen. He saw a boy who knew he was next. He called Hayes to come back in the morning. He'd see what he could do. That night, McKenna worked alone. The hangar was silent. The piano wire came from a salvaged P-38 that had been written off. He'd kept it, a useless souvenir. Now he knew why. He sat on the concrete floor, a pair of pliers in his hand, and bent the stiff, stubborn wire into a Z shape. Ugh! It fought him. The wire sliced his thumb. He wiped the blood on his coveralls and kept bending. This Z shape would act as an inline tensioner. It would take up the deadly slack. Installing it was a nightmare of concentration and fear. Working by flashlight in the cramped, dark confines of the boom, he had to disconnect the aileron cable. His heart hammered. If he was caught, it meant a court-martial, a dishonorable discharge, prison. If he made a mistake, if the modification failed in flight, Hayes would die, and it would be his fault. He fumbled the clevis pin. It dropped, bouncing into the darkness. For 5 agonizing minutes, he felt around in the dark. He found it. His hands trembling, he installed the piano wire tensioner, reconnected the cable. He pulled on it. No slack. The control surface moved immediately. Perfect. He had just broken a dozen regulations. He had just saved a pilot's life. He didn't know which yet. At 7:42 the next morning, McKenna stood on the flight line and watched Lieutenant Robert Hayes take off. He watched the P-38 climb, a speck against the vast New Guinea sky, and join the formation heading northwest, towards the Japanese fighters. And then, there was nothing to do but wait. The weight of what he had done settled on him. He had tampered with a weapon of war. All he could do was hope that a 6-inch piece of piano wire would be enough. The engagement started at 8:14 over the Huon Gulf. Hayes's flight spotted the Zeros below. The sun was behind them. Perfect. They rolled in for a diving attack. Hayes picked a Zero at the back of the formation. He dove, built up speed, squeezed the trigger. Tracers streaked out. Hits sparked on the Zero's wing, but it wasn't enough. The Zero, as they always did, snap-rolled right and dove. Instinct and doctrine screamed at Hayes to break off, but something made him follow. He rolled his P-38 to pursue, and that's when he felt it. For the first time, his P-38 responded instantly. No lag, no mush. It was like flying a different plane. He rolled inside the Zero's turn, got a clean shot, and fired. The rounds walked up the Zero's fuselage. The aircraft exploded. Hayes's first kill. But there was no time to celebrate. His wingman called out more Zeros diving from above. Hayes looked up, saw 3 of them. They'd be on him in seconds. His only option was to reverse and fight. Every instinct told him to run, but doctrine meant dying today. He rolled hard left, pulled. The P-38 snapped around. The nose came through the horizon. He saw the lead Zero. It was turning to follow him, but hadn't expected Hayes to reverse that fast. The Zero was exposed. Hayes pulled lead, fired, hit the Zero in the wing root. The wing folded. The Zero tumbled. 2 kills. The other 2 Zeros tried to scissor with him. Hayes stayed with them. Every time they reversed, his P-38 snapped into the turn instantly, no delay. The airplane did exactly what he wanted the moment he wanted it. 1 Zero made a mistake, reversed too hard, bled speed. Hayes got inside his turn, close range. He fired. The Zero came apart. 3 kills. The engagement lasted 7 minutes. When Hayes landed, his hands were shaking. He climbed out, walked straight to McKenna, and said 2 words. It worked. The secret couldn't stay hidden. Captain Frank Mitchell, a veteran flight leader, had watched Hayes' incredible performance from above. He knew Hayes was good, but not that good. He found McKenna and asked him what he had done. McKenna told him everything. Mitchell's response was immediate. Do it to my plane. He didn't care about regulations. He cared about keeping his men alive. McKenna showed a few trusted crew chiefs how to make the fix. A whisper network spread. Pilot to pilot, mechanic to mechanic. No paperwork, no orders, just a simple, life-saving modification installed in secret. Crew chiefs would remove the tensioners before official inspections to avoid getting caught. The results were undeniable. In July, the U.S. lost 2 P-38s for every Zero destroyed. By September, the ratio was nearly even, then began to tip in America's favor. Pilots were surviving. Meanwhile, Japanese pilots were confused. Veteran aces reported that the P-38s were rolling faster. Their tried-and-true tactics were failing. They didn't know why. They were fighting an invisible enemy. Eventually, the brass found out, but by then the evidence was overwhelming. Lockheed sent engineers, who tested the modification and approved it. A similar tensioning system was officially incorporated into the next model of the P-38, but the official records credited engineering analysis. James McKenna's name was erased. He received no commendation, no medal. Hayes survived the war, shot down 11 enemy aircraft, returned to Iowa, and called McKenna every year on August 17th to thank him. McKenna went home to California, opened a garage, and rarely spoke about the war. When asked, he'd just say he was a mechanic. He fixed airplanes. That's all. A historian later estimated his unofficial fix may have saved between 80 and 100 American pilots. McKenna said he never counted. He just remembered the pilots who came back. James McKenna died in 2006. His obituary mentioned he was a mechanic. It didn't mention the piano wire. It didn't mention how he broke the rules to save lives. Stories like McKenna's are why we make these videos. The unsung heroes who shaped history from the shadows. If you believe these stories deserve to be remembered, please help us share them. Hit the like button right now. That single click tells the YouTube algorithm that this story matters and helps us reach more people. Subscribe to the channel and tap the bell. We are dedicated to unearthing the forgotten turning points of history, and we have so many more incredible stories to share with you. We want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments which unsung hero from history we should cover next. Where are you watching from? Our community, from Texas to Tasmania, is what makes this so special. Thank you for watching. Thank you for remembering, and thank you for helping us honor the courage of those who didn't wait for permission to do what was right.